Hey everyone, it's Trena from John's Furniture Repair. So I wasn't going to show you this project. I'm running out of time in the shop. We're moving end of May and I haven't washed my hair for 3 days and I've been working 10-hour days and just trying to do stuff in the house and trying to get everything done in here for everybody who's got stuff left in here. So a little tired, bags under the eyes, getting a little bigger. But I just have to show you this project. It's kind of halfway through the whole situation, but not really. And I just keep finding cool stuff and interesting repairs. And I'm like, I have to share this with you guys. So I've got a pretty huge bureau that I'm working on, and we're not doing a refinish on this piece. We're just restoring the actual finish and then shifting the color on the bottom section. So let me show it to you, and I'll take you along the rest of the way because I wish I could have taken pictures before, or that I would have, but I'm losing my brain. It's hard to move a house, a business, children, family. Bear with me. I look like I'm about to pass out because I am, but I want to show you this. So let me show you this bureau. So this is the top section. It has beautiful glass, very old glass that they don't make anymore. As my good friend Laura has informed me, don't break that glass. See the little seed in there? And they're totally uneven, wobbly. You can see it in the light there, glass. It's beautiful. So thank goodness I have not broken the glass yet. What I did on this piece was just give it a beeswax along with a few repairs. There was a big chunk missing down here that I repaired. And up here, I did reglue all of the trim. The molding was falling off. And then I just scrubbed everything with the beeswax polish, including the inside. It was just completely dry. And it's made of beautiful elm. And I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but elm is my favorite wood. And it's kind of extinct. We had the Dutch elm disease here in Canada. I'm sure it was in the US too. But it's a very dark, rich color. And this is the original color of this cabinet. And that's just the top section. So now onto the other section. This was the easy part. This took me, I don't know, a couple hours to get this back together and cleaned up. That part's done, but I've got a whole nother section. Okay, I lied. 2 sections. So next section down, we've got this roll top section here. And you can see that beautiful elm grain going through these rounded curves. And that's where the top section pops in, those 2 holes. And there's not really much wrong with this section other than needing a cleanup. And the handle's been a little bit worn, so we're gonna fix that. A little bit of chewed up wood in there. So just some adjustments. And then upside down, the last section here, we have the actual base case of this. And it's upside down because I'll show you. But we've got a really interesting design. Got a couple of slices through horizontally the doors, and the drawers as well have this very interesting handle. It's like a dog, little dog. And again, that little horizontal, well, it's vertical this time, but right through cross-grain diagonal grooves. So I've never seen this before. It looks really cool. But if you noticed, check that out. So this guy completely had mold all in the bottom of everything. And what I'm just about to repair here is some pretty gross repairs and some breaks in the legs. So I did take out 3 dirty buckets of water. I washed this whole thing except for the drawers. I haven't washed those. 3 very disgusting pails of water that I dumped outside because it was just filthy. And this thing's actually been in my shop for 2 years. It's for a good client of mine, and we decided we were going to do it. We were just kind of humming and hawing back and forth if we were actually going to do it. But the plan for this is not to refinish this section and not even to refinish this section, but to repair this piece and that piece and tone it darker to match the top section, as well as do all of the repairs. So I will take you on from this point forward, and we will do this entire case, and it's gonna be gorgeous when it's all put back together, and it's gonna have a lot of its original, you know, features about it, especially this piece, which nobody's ever refinished this piece. So that is the original finish, and I left all of the nice crazing in the finish. It's kind of alligatored. You can see the varnish kind of drips off the side after a few hundred years. Right here you can see a droop, so I'm leaving that. I'm leaving all of the character on this. It's just getting a good clean and repair. So let's carry on with these legs. All right, working on side one. Again, look at that nice, beautiful elm grain. I haven't seen an entire piece made of elm other than small little dressers, and this is a big piece, so I'm pretty excited to work on this. Not joking. So these are actually screws, and they go right through this foot block with bolts on the other side. So I'm just going to unscrew until the little bolt falls off back there. And it might not unscrew the whole way. I'll have to probably punch this out because it's more of a machine screw, but they are tight. And obviously they're just, you know, it worked. It, you know, supported this whole section, but it's kind of ugly having a couple screws sticking out the side of your cabinet. And obviously, as you can see here, we're gonna need to add some feet because this is all dragging on the ground, and that's a recipe for broken wood and chips on the outside. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a punch and we can push these out of the wood. There we go. Still a little stuck. Might have to grab my screwdriver for the other one. Anyways, I'm gonna get these out, and then we're gonna pop off, well, we're just gonna take that off, and we're gonna re-glue this joint here, and, you know, fix a few things going on down here, and we're gonna add a bit bigger of a block, a more substantial block, so that we can put a foot on this situation instead of all this thin broken stuff here. Okay, so actually this is not going to come back together with this, but the way I'm going to stabilize it is to get glue behind it and glue it back to the tenon of this piece, because this has been apart for so long. This wood is completely expanded and contracted against this whole situation. So I'm just going to fish some glue in behind there. You know, these glue bots, this thing never stays on here. Stay tuned, because that's going to happen 17 times when I'm gluing this. It kind of makes me angry. I need a bigger nub up there. So I'm just going to fish glue back there with my putty knife, get it full as much as possible. And this is just going to stabilize this piece of wood. We're no longer going to be using this surface for a leg, and we're going to give it a lot more strength when we put a bigger glue block in here. So it'll be fine. And the back one is not moving at all. And then over here, sorry, same thing. We've got this piece with a crack on the back. And I know this doesn't really matter in the whole scheme of things, but just getting everything sturdy back down here is always my first order of business when I'm restoring these cabinets that have, you know, really chewed up, broken legs, because it's got to have some feet. So looks like we got enough glue in there, and I do have one little piece here that fell off, so I'm just going to get that glued back on right in here. If I have the piece, I may as well put it back. Okay. And then you just put a clamp here and a clamp here. And that's just gonna sturdy that whole situation up. Now on this side here, there are a couple of nails that I'm gonna pull. Even though this isn't gonna be on the ground, and I still don't want some nails sticking out there. They were probably for some felt pads at some point, but we're just gonna remove those on both sides, add some better legs back here, and this will just be like an apron front instead of actual feet. Okay, so I've got all of the legs drying. I've got one corner of the block done here. I just filled these old holes with some sawdust and glue. I did put a dowel in there too, just a small one. So I'm gonna drill these out now because these are not nice. And I actually do have a piece of old elm, so I made a couple of plugs. So I'm just gonna drill out a 1/2 inch hole. Okay, so because we are tinting everything, this section has been refinished with, I think it's a lacquer, yet to find out. It looks like it in a lot of places. So I'm gonna be taking this section off, and it's just held on by a couple of screws connected to some bars here. So I'm just gonna take that off. And also the hardware is scraping into the side here. So I'm gonna see if I can tighten that and maybe it'll stop doing that. So it's surprisingly not held on by a whole lot. Just 2 little tiny screws. And I think I'm gonna put pan head screws with washers back on because these aren't, I mean, it's not a super heavy wood either. Like elm is pretty light. But I just think it would stay in place a little better if I had a washer behind the piece of wood, and then it wouldn't scrape the side so easily. A little bit of a buffer. So what I'm talking about is between this bar and this side, there should be a little bit of a spacer there, so it's kind of holding it in the middle. Ooh, okay, so I'm just gonna take this out of here. Hopefully it comes out nicely. Be much easier to spray that way. So yeah, let's look at the hardware here. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nails with a broken chunk here, and this is pretty loose. I'm not putting nails back in here. These are finishing nails, and they're not very nice. Looks like the repair was done a while ago as well. This was repaired at some point. And there's nails all along this board here. I would not nail this whole thing. That's why there's a split here. So I'm not really gonna change that though. I'm just gonna fill the split. I'm gonna leave it alone. If I were to do this again, because we're not getting that deep into this project, it's just a really easy, or not an easy, but a soft restoration. I would probably glue it in sections or use little brackets. And if I was really to rebuild this, I would put this in a frame so it can float and not do this whole thing. But it's pretty hard because there is a curve. So even if you just had a couple of brackets holding, and then the wood can do what it needs to do, and not, you know, you could just have those all along this whole side and it wouldn't do that. But we're just gonna leave these cracks and we're not gonna redo this. That's not what this restoration is about, but this definitely has to be done because it's wrecking the side of the cabinets. So I think I'll probably definitely glue these pieces on and then inset some screws that can't come out as well. All right, so what I am gonna do about these panels is take more than half of the nails out of, in between here, just so that, you know, if it needs to move, it can have a bit more space to move in between. It has way too many attachment points at this point, and this could just keep happening over and over. So I'm just gonna grab these nails and leave just a very few left here, because I believe this is glued as well, so this just might save us from cracking. In the future, when I'm not here in Windsor, Essex. And there's not really much I can do about, you know, one side. I could take all of the nails out and just like loosen one side so it has shifting movement, but I might do that. So I'll pull a bunch of nails out here and then figure out what else to pull. Okay, so I've got the cracks filled with glue and epoxy putty, and I'm just gluing it down at one point there in the middle where it was splitting to stabilize it. So it looks good. And the front section as well. Just got the putty there, so I'll have to do a little bit of touch-ups. But we are doing a darker color on this, and I just want to show you what I found when I took the little handle off on the cubby hole. You can see the beautiful original color right there. Really dark red color that's on the other piece. So these must have been original, these handles. So what I'm gonna do with this piece is stain all the, because I want to leave the inside like it is natural, but I'll stain the little trim pieces and the drawers. And on this piece, I've just been doing some tests with my lacquer to make sure it's not gonna wrinkle or react. Seems okay. And I've got these two gouges puttied here, so I'm just gonna wait for them to dry all the way and then sand them like that one. And this will all get a light sand, and I'm gonna put a stain over it. Goudy's probably brown mahogany or red mahogany. Haven't decided quite yet, so that will get the same thing. Right now, I'm gonna get on to cleaning the drawers. So, Craig Cutter makes a mold cleaner, so that's what I've been cleaning this with. So I'm just gonna spray that down, give it a good wash, get all the hardware off. There are some drawer repairs that we gotta do. Obviously this is really old, you can see it's been rubbing on the bottom there. So I'm just gonna lift up these drawers off of the frame, make sure it's nice and smooth, and yeah. All right, so I've got all the drawers washed down, still wet, but this one's definitely in need of some re-gluing. So I'm gonna take this apart now. And it looks like they have really beautiful, small hand-cut dovetail in the center here, and then in and in on this other side. I've never actually seen it like this before. So I'm gonna be really careful and just kind of pop this out that way. And it's on both sides too, so we're just gonna try to pop this thing nicely out. Same time. There we go. Successful, look how small that is, it's super tiny. We did lose a chunk of wood from somewhere. Oh, I think it's right here. So we'll glue that back on, but that's good. Get the other side off too. All right, so while the glue is heating up, I've got a color I haven't used in a long time out, but it's a super intense color. It's called Regency Mahogany, obviously from Goudy here. Regency Mahogany is a very deep red with a lot of black. And when I'm looking at the little areas and the other piece, obviously, I'm seeing a lot of that. Now, red mahogany also is a good And I might have, like this might be too red with not enough black. I'm kind of thinking that way. But I'm just gonna try a little bit next to our sample here on our little old drawer. And I'm gonna try it in a very small way, just with a tiny little brush. Gaudi has Regency mahogany, red mahogany, and brown mahogany. And they're all really intense, awesome colors. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it on thick there. And I'm gonna put a little bit of alcohol on the area that still has. So when I'm looking at this, I see too much red. So I'm gonna grab the brown mahogany because it does have red too, but I think it'll be a little bit more black. Sorry, Regency, you're back in the bucket for next time. It's a cool color though. One day I'll use it for something. Okay, so I've got the red mahogany here. Just get all the good stuff mixed in. It's got a lot of gorgeous solids in this stain. I haven't found another stain that has this much pigment. But I haven't tried a lot of stains either, so I'm sure the other professional brands are not too bad. Although with Mohawk brands, I find not great. Not a big fan of their stain. Okay, so let's try this color. And again, I'll put a little bit of alcohol so you can see clearly. So that looks really black, which is good because I think when we wipe it away, it's going to have just enough red to really mix into that. If I need to add a little bit of red in the finishing process, I can do that. That's quite easy. So I think we're going to go with this color, and I'm just going to be wiping the stain over the very little of a finish that is on this stuff. It's all sanded to 180, and so I'll just get to staining while the glue warms up.
Virgin Radio, there is going to be live coverage of the King's coronation that you're going to be able to watch on CTV coming up this Saturday. But of course, with the time change from the UK, it's going to start nice, bright, and early. So get a good night's sleep on Friday night if you want to watch it all on Saturday.
Okay, I'm gonna make a custom mix of the Regency and the red. So I'm just not getting enough red out of it, especially on this piece where I can't tint. So I'm just gonna mix my own two together so I can get the black of the red mahogany and the red of the Regency. And I'm gonna mix it together for the whole thing. So I'll do 4 of these. Oops, did I miss? And then I'll do 2 of these. We'll see how that looks. I'm just gonna get a little testing piece of wood. See how much red we get out of this color. I'm gonna add some more red. Usually red is really pervasive, but this one, let's see how that looks. A little better. I'm just going to play with this for a bit. Okay, so I've got these blocks all glued and things are repaired on the base here. And now I gotta think about putting feet on. Now you might have seen these before in a large cabinet that I did, our massive restoration, I think it's called. Anyways, these are, they're, what am I trying to say? Flexible, maybe? Flexible levelers. You can unscrew this and level it in place. Now this cabinet has all different heights of sides, and I really don't know exactly how to get it level. So what I'm going to do is add these so that they can level it in place. Also, my customer usually, he has an older home, and the floors are usually not very flat or square, or they're all different. So he can use these to help it stand exactly where it needs to. So I'm just going to drill into each of these and pop a T-nut in, and then these screw into the T-nut. Okay, you might be saying these aren't very period specific, and you'd be right. This is more about protecting the cabinet than, you know, what's on the bottom of this being important to the period that it was made in. So I'm just putting these on. I think I'm gonna actually countersink this in because it's a little bit high, but it's nice to have it off the ground so we can protect this, but it'd be nicer if it was a little bit lower. So I'm gonna take these out. I'm gonna drill out into the cabinet, probably a good 1/2 inch. So we're gonna take this out and just sink it in a little bit more. And these will protect the cabinet and level it where it is. So that's exactly what I need for this. Okay, so I've got to lead it on so it kind of etches into the finish and grabs a little bit. So I'm basically going to get this whole thing under stain, and then I'll wipe it off, start wiping, so that it kind of gets into everything. Because this is a solvent-based stain and it will soften solvent-based finishes, which I think this is like an old lacquer. I'm not sure. It was refinished at some point. It's either poly or... It didn't soften up very easily, but there's actually so little of the stain on here. It's kind of like it just wipes off right away. Doesn't really react too much, doesn't even get sticky or anything, so it's not reacting like varnish. So I don't really know what it is, but it seems to be okay with what we're doing. And it doesn't look like it was done that long ago either. Maybe a couple years. So I'll get stain on this whole thing and then we'll wipe it off. Okay, so we got the roll top desk all stained, sitting here. Drawers are stained, waiting for some dry time. So we'll get some lacquer on all that stuff when it's ready. And back over by the cabinet, we are ready to flip this thing over. We've got our blocks. I just threw some stain on them. Got them all sturdy with our feet, just so this thing has something to stand on. And we did do our repairs to the screw holes. I had some alum that I popped in there and made some plugs out of, so it looks good. Did some light sanding with some 180. So let's put this thing back on its actual feet now and take care of the rest. This past spring in Windsor, Ontario, we got hit with a pretty bad ice storm. It rained really hard, the wind blew, and temperatures dropped. We had a lot of power lines downed everywhere, and the weight of the ice and the trees made everything into a total mess. People all over the region were without power for days, and basements were in danger of flooding, either flooded, some pumps were failing. People were shivering in their beds without any heat, but ironically, the food in their freezers spoiled, so it was a total mess in this area. Luckily, our house had power, restored in 2 days. Others had it way worse. So I'm thankful for that. Only people who owned gas generators were really able to avoid this type of stress and keep their stuff in their freezer okay and stay warm. We didn't own a gas generator, but we had something sent to us that was way better. We were sent a portable power station by Bluetti. Bluetti's portable power station, their AC200 Max, is a pretty serious solution to some of these huge problems that we had this spring. And I was like, this is never going to happen to me again. Keeping this on hand really means that if you're losing power or something goes down, you have the capacity to keep your refrigerators cold and some heat in your house, do some cooking, keep your phones charged for emergencies, and way more. It basically takes a charge from your wall outlet, your car, your gas generator, or even solar, which I'll get into. It stores it and converts it to the power that you need. If you want to plug in just a regular 120 plug, you want to charge your phone, there's even little charge ports on top. It has the ability to give you what you need. If you're into van life, which I've watched a lot on YouTube, it's cool. Kind of have dreams of just running away from life and living in a van. We all do, don't lie. Then you probably already know about Bluetti, and you might even own one already, which is cool. You likely know more about it than I do, that's for sure, because I just got my hands on this thing. But if you're watching this and you just live in a normal house, there are still plenty of applications that a piece of tech like this can perform for you. If you own an RV, a motorhome, or a fifth wheel camper trailer, and you want to set up your power source to be able to run, your small appliances for making your pancakes on your camping trips, which I always did when I was growing up. If you have needs for other things in your campsite, that's going to do it for you there. This unit is totally designed to withstand a high draw, microwave heater, an AC unit, whatever you need to use when you're out there camping and you want to stay comfy. And if you just are a tenter like me, I don't have an RV, I just go out in a tent. Bringing this can still give you the convenience of having a plug-in site without paying for one. And on the last one, we used it to power a mini fridge and charged our phones, had the music going, pumped the air mattresses, and I don't even remember what else we did with it. It was super useful. If you're into the construction or skilled trades and you work on remote job sites, this thing is going to power your Bluetooth speaker, or it's not just going to power your Bluetooth speaker and your coffee maker. It'll also run any tool you hook up to it, no problem, like air compressors, saws, sanders, anything you want, no sweat. So that ice storm I mentioned, this is how many fallen limbs and branches we had to clean up from our lawn. It was a total mess. They had to be cut down manageable lengths so I could stick them in the back to stack them up and get rid of them. They didn't really burn very well, but eventually they did. I don't own a chainsaw, so I did everything with my carpentry tools, because you guys know I have those. So I had my little reciprocating saw and my circular saw, and I ran that stuff all day, and the charge level of the Bluetti barely dropped. It was totally taking it and like a champ. I also have a fairly new pickup. If you own a fairly new pickup, you probably know this. There's a little power outlet in the back on most of them. And I've tried to run some tools off of that thing, and it does not do squat. It's drawing power from a truck battery that I'm not sure how they have that set up, but it's not working. So they kind of have pictures on their commercials of dudes setting up their saws on site. I'm like, I tried that. That didn't work. The Bluetti will do the saw all day. The truck bed thing and a giant vehicle is not even gonna cut it. So it's beating the truck by a long shot and still not even breaking a sweat. So the AC200 Max holds a whopping 2,000 watt hours of electricity, which is a lot if you know stuff like that. But if you have really serious power needs, you can actually stack units together to double or even triple your capacity. They sent me, because they're so lovely, a battery pack. This is the B230 here, which is essentially an expansion battery pack without the touch screen and controls and the plugs. You can hook up 2 of these expansion packs to the main unit. And with these massively thick cables, you'd have an insane 6,000 watt hours of power. So that's a lot, and that's gonna do most things for people. The main unit has all the brains, so you have your little touch screen there where you can look what your levels are, what your outputs are, what's charging. You can change your AC to DC, do everything on that little screen. So that's your little brain of it. And then the extra battery packs are the same capacity, but they just don't have that little screen and everything, and a lot less plugins. It makes sure that when you do have them hooked up as well, that everything is charging evenly and drawing evenly, and that the whole chain is working properly together. One thing, these units are a little bit on the heavy side, but I did notice they make a little carrying cart on the website if you want to just have it constantly on that little dolly to roll it around where you need it. The main unit is 62 pounds and the expansion packs are 48 pounds. And I mean, in the balance between portability and power, Bluetti definitely chose power. So I think that's the right choice. If you ask me, these things are insane in their capacity, but they are still technically portable. So you can, they have a couple of good handles on the sides that you can pick them up with. You're just not going to be running down the beach like a Baywatch babe with it tucked underneath your arm. Now, charging. You would think with so much power that you're going to be waiting days to get a full capacity charge.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
This is actually one of the key areas that Bluetti has been working on, rapid charging. This latest model, the AC200, has a solar input of 900 watts, which is pretty serious. So the previous model had solar input of 700 watts, so it's a good upgrade. And the best of all is that you can charge it through multiple sources. So whatever you've got to charge this thing up. So you can plug this thing into your house's AC current and have a solar panel hooked up at the same time, and that combined input will be a whopping 1,400 watts. So it all kind of evens out the fast charging rate, the massive total capacity. In terms of time, it will take 5 to 6 hours for a full charge, just plugging it into your house wall. But if you have a solar charge, it'll take 3 to 3.5 hours. And then if you want to combine your house plug-in, your AC, and your solar, you could bring that charge time to full capacity down to 2 to 2.5 hours. And so the brain inside of this little, or the inverter part, the bigger piece, it handles everything. Say, for example, you chain together several solar panels, and that total is 1,000 watt output, but the Bluetti's input for charging is only 900 watts. You don't have to worry about overloading and frying these circuits. This is such a smart, intuitive machine. It handles everything in itself and puts limiters as well as output limiters, so surge protection on everything that you're using and putting into the piece, so you don't have to worry about damaging it. It's very user-friendly. So we're out here. You guys might have watched our previous videos where I'm explaining that I'm moving back home. So I am out here in Saskatchewan out west now, and we've got a big 10-acre property that we are just so happy to be on. And I have used this thing several times. I'm working on a little tack shop for my horse to put all her stuff into. It's a little shed kind of far away from the house. And I've been using a ton of tools and everything's been hooked up to the Bluetti and it's working awesome. I don't have to find like 6 extension cords to roll out there to charge everything. It's doing great. It has no problem running my stuff. So I've already used it also to, in this place we have a lot of beautiful gardens and things. And we've got a lot of rain collection, which is amazing for the plants. So I've also used it to take a submersible pump, and there are 9 of them. So, you know, getting them emptied and you don't want to grow mosquitoes and stuff. So I've used it to hook up to the submersible pump and pressure my hose, my sprinkler, and the rainwater makes such a difference in my plants with the minerals, not using fluoridated and chlorinated water for them. They're just so much happier. So if you think maybe you'd like to check out this Bluetti AC200 Max for yourself, there will be a link in the description below this video and a deal for you guys. Do check it out. I love this thing and I have no doubt that you will too if this is what you're looking for. Thanks guys. Okay, so we've got this thing on its feet back on the cart and I just wanted to show you this is a really cool feature. This actually slides out for a work surface and it has like a paper with a mesh fabric that's been glued on to this and it's really loose everywhere. I'm just going to glue down the areas that I can access. I'm not going to worry about the middle, but it's not leather, it's just like a paper. That's cool. And these are the holes that the roll top fits into. So basically this thing just needs a good sand. I do need to add a little bit of wood on the runners down here. Let me show you. Yeah, so you can see just the amount of wood that's been removed. That groove is pretty deep. This is the top drawer. These smaller drawers aren't as bad, but still they're gonna need a lift because they're hitting their drawer bottoms and scooping out stuff. So I'm gonna put probably a couple of strips of just edge banding on there just to get it back to good. And in here we removed that shelf and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave it just like this as a compartment without that shelf. I'm thinking there probably would have been a divider, but maybe not, and I don't know, so I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, so basically just get these guys cleaned up, give it a good sand, and stain. All right, so I was thinking about gluing this down and it seems to be coming off really easily. And with that, I'll be able to I can't put tape on it. I feel like it's gonna rip it off or taping it off or spraying and stuff. So I'm just gonna try to remove it very carefully with a little bit of heat. So it seems to be lifting quite easily. And this scraper here, in my last video on the door restoration, you guys were asking about this. This is a flexible scraper. You can actually flex it to go around curves. And, you know, I use it a lot on molded chair seats and stuff to get up on that curve for stripping. And you can get this at Lee Valley. Just look in scrapers. I don't remember the name of it. Or I can read it maybe. No, it's too dirty. Yeah, it's at Lee Valley, so check it out. So I'm just gonna work this across the surface and carefully just, I'm not gonna really pull it all. I'm just gonna let it give. We'll work one side at a time here. I can show you what it looks like underneath too. It's kind of cool. It's like a mesh with a paper topping. Not really sure exactly what it is. And this heat gun, you can switch the temperatures too, so it's nice to be able to pick a temperature on this thing. Just gonna turn my constant on. And this is a gift from a YouTuber, so thank you. I think I'll wax this top too, just to get a little bit of a shine back. That'll be nice. It is torn over there, so I'm gonna be careful with that. There you go. So let me flip this over. There you can see it's like a muslin or something that was glued down. Doesn't look like there was a whole lot of glue in the center, just the edges. So we'll probably glue the whole thing when I put it back on. And that's what's underneath. So it's interesting. They must have taken it off when they did this refinishing in the first place because it's got the new color underneath. So that's probably why it's not stuck very well. So, and there were some tears in it, but we'll glue it back down properly when we do it again. And maybe it was a new piece, I'm not sure. I don't really know what happened there. And this piece here has shrunk quite a bit. If you look at the edge here, it's kind of off, and then the front, the profile's off too. So if you can see here, right here kind of steps down or steps up and then up. So this piece in the middle shrunk this way. This would only shrink that way. So you got to put them kind of together like that. And it did crack back here from the shrinking too. But I'm not going to do anything about that. That's part of it. So we're just going to clean it up, sand it, and stain it. Okay, this is one of the sides of the desk. And you can see here there's a gap in the panel. It's shifted all the way over to that side. And again, if you watched my video on the door, what you got to do with this is release the panel from where it's stuck, which is obviously along this side, and then pull it back in. So I'm just going to use this very thin scraper again. I'm going to pop it in between the panel and the frame. And sometimes they're not very stuck. They just gravitate to one side when they shrink. And in the back, I'm just going to use my pry bar to pull it over. So you can watch this gap as I pull it over. If I can get it in there, it's pretty slammed on that side. It's not really a lot of room back here. There it goes. Yeah, so you can see I've shifted over and closed this gap. You can see just how far over it did shift from the old varnish right here that we got to clean up now. And it may have gone back a little too far, so I'll just even the gap inside and I'll show you what I mean. So there you can see the panel on the inside and the two gaps. There's the bottom. So you just want to even those out on the inside. They actually look not too bad right now. And then you're good. So I was basically just getting my pry bar in here and moving it back and forth by twisting it. So that's how you do it if it's stuck. All right, I'm working on putting this whole thing back together, and I've got glue and inset screws there that are gonna be holding that on way better so it doesn't damage the inside of that top piece. And then we also got this thing glued down back again. So I just did a lot of extra glue, and it kind of permeated into the mesh and glued this part down as well. I tried to use a heat gun to fold these back over, but they're just barely there, so it's okay. You won't really see that when everything's together, so I'm just gonna leave it. And I did beeswax this whole top, so it's looking a little better and definitely more firm. So I'm just gonna put these guys back on, or this one back on to this piece here, and I'm gonna use a bigger screw with double washers, one on the inside and the outside, so it moves smoothly back and forth. And there it is, all finished up and all three pieces put back together. Looking really good. It's very dark, a dark old finish. You can see the red in the old finish. We've got that there too. Everything looking nice and together. Got our brass shined. Look at these adorable handles. Little pug faces. And inside we did take the shelf out, and I just left it empty and cleaned it. It looks better than all that jazz that was going on in there before. And of course we did a lot of feet on the base that you can't see, but it's standing nice on feet and not dragging on its base anymore. So that's good. We did rebuild the drawers, and I left them the way they were, but they are rebuilt and re-glued. And inside here, we re-glued all of this down. Still got all its character, but it's not gonna go anywhere now. And I don't have the cubby hole in there. I actually have it over here. And I just left it out because they're picking it up today. So just for moving purposes. We got those all cleaned up and looking good too. And that'll look good in there. But yeah, we did reglue the crown mold and just give this piece a beeswax inside and out. This was all really dry, but it's all nice and moisturized now, looking good. It's a little bit dusty. It's been sitting in here for a few days waiting for me to take this video. But yeah, it looks really good. It looks old, and that's exactly what I want. Remember we had those big chunks of wood scraped out of here. I did put washers on the inside of this, so that, and here as well, so it slides nicely and doesn't touch this. And then we re-glued everything up there on the attachment point, which just had nails and it was very loose. And we did do some work taking out some nails on those panels so it'd move a little bit better. We did not fix the cracks, we just puttied them up so they're still there. And you can see that nice, beautiful elm through. This color really does attract the dust. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this one, half of this one, I guess, because I was not gonna film this one, but it's a cool little cabinet, so I'm really happy to have shown you this. It's got some really interesting features. It would have been nice, maybe I should have stripped these because those would have been burls under there. Some burled veneer, that would have been really nice. And the other thing that was really kind of neat about this desk is this whole section slides out here for a work table. And the entire thing is made of elm. So there was just some really interesting things about this piece that I didn't want to miss documenting on the internet. The handles, the way it works, the elm. But I think we got it to last for another 100 years. So thanks again for joining me on this one, guys. I really appreciate it. And I am getting really ready to move. We have barely anything left in here. And whenever you see this video, at this point, it's really only a couple of jobs left. So thanks again for joining me on this one. And if you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for all your wonderful comments and for watching. Cheers.